The control room of Orbital Station Kepler was quiet that night. Commander Jack Hayes sat at his desk watching the screens that showed empty space. Most days were like this, boring, peaceful, just the way the galaxy liked it. Jack took a sip of his coffee and looked at the time. Another 3 hours until his shift ended. He thought about the message he needed to send to his sister back on Earth. She had been asking about his life in space, wondering if it was exciting like the movies showed. He smiled. If only she knew how dull it really was. Then everything changed. A sharp beep came from the main console. Lieutenant Sophie Bennett sat up straight in her chair. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. She turned to look at Jack with wide eyes. "Commander, we have something. It's a distress signal." Jack stood up and walked over to her station. "What kind of signal?" "It's weak. Very old frequency. Give me a minute to clean it up." Jack watched as Sophie worked. The other crew members in the room stopped what they were doing. Everyone knew that distress signals were rare. The galaxy had been peaceful for a long time. Too long, some people said. The speakers crackled. Then a voice came through. It was high and musical, speaking a language that the computer quickly translated. The voice belonged to a Valorian, one of the bird-like aliens who had been part of the Galactic Council for thousands of years. "This is Theta Prime Colony. We are under attack. The Krenth swarm has broken through our defenses. We have requested help from the Council fleet, but they say they cannot reach us in time. We have 50,000 civilians here, mostly families, children. We cannot hold them off much longer. If anyone can hear this, please help us, please." The message ended. The room was silent. Jack felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had met Valorians before. They were kind, gentle people. They reminded him of songbirds, delicate and peaceful. The idea of them facing an attack made him angry. "Where is Theta Prime?" he asked. Sophie pulled up a star map. "It's about 4 days from here at maximum speed. The Council fleets are all positioned in other sectors. The closest one is 2 weeks away." 2 weeks, Jack repeated. "They'll all be dead by then." He walked back to his desk and opened a communication channel. He needed to contact Captain Richard Stone. The UNS Harbinger was on patrol not far from their station. If anyone could do something, it was Stone. The captain's face appeared on the screen. Richard Stone was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. But those eyes were sharp, always watching, always thinking. "Commander Hayes, it's late." "What's going on?" "Captain, we picked up a distress call from Theta Prime. Valorian colony under attack by the Krenth swarm." Stone leaned forward. "The Krenth? Haven't heard from them in over a century. What's the Council doing about it?" "Nothing, sir. They say no fleet can reach in time." Stone was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Send me the coordinates, and get me Admiral Carter on the line." "Yes, sir." Jack worked quickly, sending all the information to the Harbinger. Then he placed a call to Earth Defense Command. It took 30 minutes to get through to Admiral Helen Carter. She was in a meeting, but when she heard it was urgent, she took the call. Admiral Carter was a legend in Earth's military. She had been one of the first humans to make contact with alien species. She had fought in the border wars against pirates. She had built Earth's defense fleet from almost nothing. "Admiral, this is Commander Hayes at Kepler Station. We have a situation," he explained everything. The distress call. The Valorian colony. The Krenth attack. The Council's refusal to help. Carter listened without interrupting. When Jack finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "How far is Captain Stone from Theta Prime?" 4 days, ma'am." "And how many ships do we have in that sector?" Jack checked his records. The Harbinger and her escort group. "That's 5 ships total. There might be a few merchant vessels in the area, too." Carter nodded. "Tell Stone he has permission to respond. Full authorization." "And Hayes?" "Yes, ma'am. Send this information to every human ship within range. Military, civilian, doesn't matter. Let them know what's happening. Let them choose." Jack blinked in surprise. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "Commander, 30 years ago we joined this Galactic Council. They told us about their rules, their laws, their peaceful ways. They looked at Earth and called it a death world. They were scared of us. But you know what? We've been good neighbors. We've followed their rules. We've kept the peace." She paused and Jack could see the fire in her eyes. "But there are 50,000 innocent people about to die, and the Council is going to let it happen because it's not convenient to save them." "Well, I don't care about convenient. Send the message, Commander. Let's see what humans do when someone needs help." The call ended. Jack sat at his desk, his heart beating fast. He knew what the Admiral was doing. She was giving every human in the sector a choice. Come help or don't, no orders. No demands. Just information and freedom to choose. He started typing the message. It was simple and direct. A colony was under attack. People were dying. The council wasn't coming. Here were the coordinates. Do what you think is right. He sent it out on every channel. Military frequencies, civilian networks, even the encrypted channels used by merchants and traders. Then he waited. Sophie was watching her screen. Commander, Captain Stone is moving. The Harbinger just changed course. They're heading for Theta Prime. Jack nodded. He expected that. Stone was a good man. But then Sophie gasped. Sir, I'm picking up more ships. A cargo hauler just changed course. And another one. There's a passenger liner altering its route. Sir, they're all heading toward Theta Prime. Jack stood up and looked at the main display. Small dots were appearing on the star map, all moving in the same direction. Ships were coming from everywhere. Big ones, small ones, military and civilian. All of them had received the message. All of them had made a choice. How many? He asked quietly. Sophie kept counting. 20 ships so far. Oh wait, 30. More are still coming. Jack felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride. Hope. He thought about the Valorians on Theta Prime, huddled in their shelters, thinking they were going to die alone. They were wrong. Help was coming. Maybe not the help they expected, but help nonetheless. Open a channel to Theta Prime, Jack said. Sir, it will take hours for the message to reach them. I don't care. Send it anyway. Sophie nodded and opened the channel. Jack spoke clearly and firmly. Theta Prime, this is Orbital Station Kepler of the Human Defense Network. We received your distress call. We know the Council cannot reach you in time, but you are not alone. Humanity is coming, hold on. Just hold on a little longer. We're on our way. He ended the transmission. The room was silent again, but this time it felt different. It felt like the calm before a storm. Somewhere out there, the Krenth swarm was attacking peaceful civilians. They thought no one would stop them. They were about to learn a hard lesson. They were about to meet humans, and humans protected their friends. Commander Linda Price was sleeping when the message came through. Her ship, the Midnight Runner, was hauling mining equipment from Mars to the outer colonies. It was boring work, but it paid well. She had 3 more days of travel ahead. Then she could take a week off and visit her family. The alarm on her personal tablet woke her up. She rolled over and looked at the screen. It was a message marked urgent. Not a military code, though. This was on the civilian network. Linda sat up and read the message. Then she read it again. Valorian colony under attack. 50,000 civilians. No help coming. Coordinates attached. She checked the coordinates. Theta Prime was only 2 days away if she pushed her engines. But she was carrying mining equipment, not weapons. What could she do? Then she thought about something else. Before she became a cargo hauler, Linda had been a Marine. She had served 10 years before retiring to civilian life. She knew how to fight. But more importantly, she knew other people who knew how to fight. Linda got dressed and went to the cargo bay. She opened the communication panel and sent a message to an old friend. John Miller had served with her. He lived on Mars Station now, working as a security guard. He was probably bored out of his mind. The reply came back in minutes. Linda, that you? Haven't heard from you in months. What's up? John, I need a favor. Actually, I need a lot of favors. How many of the old crew are still on Mars? There was a pause. Maybe 40 or 50. Why? Linda explained about the distress call, about the Valorians, about the fact that no one was coming to help them. John was quiet while she talked. You want to pick us up? He finally asked. If you want to come, I can fit about 40 people in my cargo holds. Won't be comfortable, but we can make it work. Bring weapons if you have them. John laughed. It was a hard sound, but not mean. Linda, you're crazy. But yeah, I'm in. Give me 2 hours. I'll round up the others. The Midnight Runner changed course and headed for Mars Station. Linda used the time to check her ship's systems. She also sent messages to other cargo haulers in the area. Some of them ignored her, but a few responded. They wanted to help too. When she reached Mars, there were 60 people waiting for her. Not 40, 60, all of them were veterans. They brought their own weapons, their own armor, their own supplies. They loaded onto her ship like they were reporting for duty. Colonel Raymond Hughes was among them. He was old now, probably 70, but he stood straight and tall. He had been a legend in the Marines. 3 wars, dozens of medals. He should have been sitting in a comfortable chair somewhere, drinking beer and telling stories. Instead, he was climbing into a cargo hauler with a rifle on his back. "Colonel," Linda said, surprised. "I didn't expect to see you here." Raymond smiled. "Where else would I be, Commander?" "Someone needs help. We're going to help them. That's what we do." The Midnight Runner left Mars Station and headed for Theta Prime. Linda knew she wasn't alone. Other ships were converging on the same location. She could see them on her scanner. Dozens of them. On the edges of the solar system, a yacht changed course. It belonged to a rich woman named Kate Douglas. She made her money salvaging old wrecks and selling the parts. People called her a pirate, but she had never been convicted of anything. Mostly because she was very good at not getting caught. Kate read the message about Theta Prime and laughed. Then she called her crew. "Boys, we got something better than salvage. We got a rescue mission. Who's coming?" Her entire crew volunteered. 20 people, most of them former military or smugglers. They weren't good people exactly. But they weren't bad either. They just lived on the edge of the law. Kate pointed her yacht toward Theta Prime and pushed the engines to maximum. "Let's go save some bird people." All across human space, the same thing was happening. Merchant ships were changing course. Private vessels were volunteering. Even a luxury cruise liner, the Star Princess, altered its route. The captain announced to his passengers what was happening. Half of them demanded refunds. The other half started organizing supply runs and medical stations. Admiral Carter sat in her office at Earth Defense Command, watching the reports come in. Her assistant, a young officer named Greg Palmer, kept updating the numbers. "Admiral, we now have 63 confirmed ships heading for Theta Prime. Military and civilian combined. More are still joining." Carter nodded slowly. "What about weapons? How many combat-ready vessels do we have?" 12, ma'am. The rest are cargo ships, transports, and civilian craft, but several of them are carrying armed personnel." "Armed personnel," Carter repeated. "You mean veterans who volunteered?" "Yes, ma'am. We're getting reports from Mars, Luna, Earth orbit. Hundreds of former military personnel are hitching rides on any ship that will take them." Carter stood up and walked to the window. She could see Earth below, blue and beautiful. Home. Humanity had come from that world, a world that tried to kill them every single day. They had evolved to survive, to adapt, to fight when necessary. But they had also evolved something else. Compassion. The ability to care about others, even strangers. Even aliens. "Greg, send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we are responding to the distress call from Theta Prime. Tell them we expect no interference." "Yes, ma'am. Should I mention how many ships we're sending?" Carter smiled. "No. Let them figure that out themselves." On the bridge of the UNS Harbinger, Captain Richard Stone watched his tactical display fill up with friendly contacts. When he had changed course for Theta Prime, he thought he would be going alone. Maybe with his small escort group. 5 ships total against an unknown number of Krenth warriors. Now he was looking at a fleet. Lieutenant Jake Morrison stood beside him, counting the ships. "Captain, I make it 70 ships now. And more are still arriving." Stone shook his head in wonder. "I didn't order this." "Nobody ordered this." "No, sir. They came on their own." "Why?" Jake looked at his captain. "Because someone asked for help, sir. And we're humans." "That's what we do." Stone thought about that. The galaxy saw humanity as dangerous. They called Earth a death world. They were afraid of what humans might do with their strength, their weapons, their aggression. But they didn't understand. Humans weren't just strong, they were protective. When someone weaker needed help, humans felt it in their bones. The need to defend. The need to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. It was the same instinct that made humans adopt stray dogs. The same feeling that made them run into burning buildings to save strangers. The same drive that pushed them to stand between danger and the innocent. "Open a channel to all ships," Stone said. "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Richard Stone of the UNS Harbinger. I want to thank every one of you for coming. What you're doing here today is not official military business. You came because you chose to come. Because you heard someone calling for help and you decided to answer. That makes you heroes, all of you." He paused, looking at the display showing all those ships. "We're about 4 days from Theta Prime. We don't know exactly what we're facing. The Krenth swarm is dangerous. They're killers. But you know what? So are we. We come from Earth. We survived ice ages and predators and diseases. We climbed to the top of our food chain and we did it together. As a team, as a family. Stone's voice grew harder. Those Valorians on Theta Prime are about to become part of our family. Anyone who wants to hurt them will have to go through us first. And I promise you, that is not going to be easy for them. All ships maintain formation. We move together. We fight together. And we win together. Harbinger out. The channel closed. Jake was grinning. Good speech, Captain. Thanks. Now get those ships organized into battle groups. I want everyone to know their role when we arrive. Yes, sir. Stone sat in his command chair and looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, 50,000 Valorians were fighting for their lives. They thought they were alone. They thought the galaxy had abandoned them. They were wrong. Humanity was coming, and humanity never left anyone behind. Governor Nala stood on the wall of the colony watching the horizon. Smoke rose from 3 different districts. The Krenth had breached the outer defenses 2 days ago. Since then, they had been pushing deeper into the colony, sector by sector. She was tired, so tired. Her wings drooped, and her feathers were dull from stress and fear. Around her, the militia fought bravely, but they were losing. Valorians were not warriors. They were artists, scientists, musicians. Violence was foreign to them. The Krenth, on the other hand, lived for violence. Nala had seen them up close. They were horrible creatures, each one as large as a Valorian adult covered in black armor plates. They moved on 6 legs and had sharp claws that could tear through metal. Worst of all were their numbers. For every Krenth they killed, 10 more appeared. Her communications officer, Kess, ran up to her. He was young, barely an adult, but he had stayed at his post when others had fled. Governor, the eastern wall is falling. We need to evacuate that sector. Nala closed her eyes. The eastern sector held 5,000 civilians, mostly families with children. Begin evacuation. Move them to the central shelters. Yes, Governor. Kess turned to leave, but Nala stopped him. Any word from the council? He lowered his head. No, ma'am. The last message said help would arrive in 12 days. 12 days. They had maybe 2 days left before the colony fell completely. Nala wanted to scream. The Galactic Council had rules, procedures, protocols. Everything had to be done properly, officially, correctly. But none of that mattered when you were dying. There was one other message, Kess said quietly. From the humans. Nala looked up. The humans? What did they say? They said they received our distress call. They said help was coming. That was 3 days ago. 3 days. Nala felt a small spark of hope, but she pushed it down. She had studied humans when they first joined the Council. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous planets known. The humans were strong, aggressive, and frightening to many species. But they were also far away. Their territory was on the other side of Council space. Even if they wanted to help, they couldn't possibly arrive in time. The ground shook. Another explosion. The Krenth were using their acid bombs to melt through the defensive walls. Nala spread her wings and flew down from the wall, heading for the command center. She needed to organize the evacuation of the eastern sector. In space above Theta Prime, the Krenth fleet controlled the high ground. 23 ships, all of them ugly and functional. The Krenth didn't care about beauty or style. They cared about killing and conquering. The fleet commander, a massive Krenth named Vex, watched the colony below with satisfaction. The Valorians were weak, pathetic. They had barely fought at all. In another 2 days, the colony would be completely overrun. Then the Krenth could take what they wanted and move on to the next target. Vex was considering which sector to attack next when his sensor operator made a strange clicking sound. Commander, we have contacts emerging from hyperspace. Multiple ships. They're not Valorian. Vex turned his attention to the displays. Council fleet? No, Commander. Computer identifies them as human vessels. Vex felt confused. Humans? Why would humans come here? This wasn't their territory. They had no colonies in this region. They should have no interest in this battle. How many ships? Counting now, Commander, 20, no, 30. Still arriving. 40 ships now. Commander, there are 50 human ships entering the system. Vex clicked his mandibles together nervously. 50 ships was a significant force, but the Krenth had defeated larger fleets before. Humans were unknowns, though. They had only been part of the Council for a short time. No one knew how they fought. Ready the fleet for combat. We will crush them like we crushed the Valorians. On the bridge of the UNS Harbinger, Captain Stone smiled as his fleet dropped into normal space. The final count was 72 ships. 72 vessels that had come from across human space, all to help people they had never met. All ships, this is Harbinger actual. Enemy fleet detected. 23 contacts, Krenth design. They're holding position over the colony. Lieutenant Jake Morrison was coordinating the fighter wings. Captain, should we launch fighters? Not yet. First, I want to send them a message. Open a channel to the Krenth fleet. Channel open, sir. Stone spoke clearly and coldly. Krenth fleet, this is Captain Richard Stone of Earth Defense Forces. You are attacking a defenseless colony. You are killing civilians. This ends now. You have one chance. Leave the system immediately or we will remove you. The response came quickly. The Krenth commander's voice was harsh and clicking, translated by the computer. Humans, this is not your concern. Leave now or share the fate of the Valorians. Stone nodded as if he had expected that answer. Wrong choice. All ships engage at will. Show them what happens when you pick on our friends. The human fleet surged forward. The Krenth ships moved to intercept. On paper, it looked like a fair fight. 23 Krenth vessels against 72 human ships. But many of the human ships were civilian vessels, unarmed or lightly armed. The Krenth had better weapons, better armor, better shields. They should have won easily. They didn't. The first wave of human fighters launched and the Krenth learned something important. Human pilots were insane. They flew with a recklessness that no sane species would attempt. They dodged and weaved through defensive fire like they were dancing. And their weapons were different. Most galactic species used energy weapons. Lasers, plasma beams, particle cannons. These weapons were effective but required charging time and cooling periods. Human fighters used missiles, solid projectiles with explosive warheads. Old technology, primitive by galactic standards, but devastatingly effective. Jake Morrison led his squadron through the Krenth formation, his fingers dancing over the controls. He locked onto a Krenth cruiser and fired 2 missiles. The first one hit the shields, weakening them. The second one punched through and detonated inside the ship's hull. Splash 1 cruiser! All wings focus fire. Take them apart piece by piece. The Krenth fleet tried to adapt. They focused their weapons on the human fighters, filling space with energy beams. But the human pilots were too fast, too unpredictable. They flew in patterns that made no sense, constantly changing speed and direction. Commander Linda Price watched from the bridge of the Midnight Runner. Her ship had no weapons, but she had 60 armed veterans in her cargo hold. They were waiting for their chance to deploy to the surface. Captain Stone, this is Midnight Runner. We're ready to deploy ground forces whenever you give the word. Copy that, Runner. Stand by. We need to clear the orbital space first. Below on Theta Prime, Governor Nala heard the explosions in space. She looked up at the sky, seeing flashes of light as ships fought and died. Kess ran to her again, his eyes wide. Governor, the human fleet is here. They're fighting the Krenth in orbit. Nala felt that spark of hope grow stronger. How many ships? Over 70, ma'am. And they're winning. Winning. The word seemed impossible. The Krenth had been unstoppable. But now humans were pushing them back. Nala had heard stories about humans, about their violence, their aggression, their dangerous nature. She had been afraid of them, like most species. Now she was grateful for all those things. Kess, open a channel to the human fleet. Yes, Governor. A moment later, a human face appeared on her screen. It was Captain Stone, and he looked tired but determined. Governor Nala, I presume? Yes, Captain. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Save your thanks for later, Governor. Right now, we need to secure orbit. Then we'll send down troops to help your people. How bad is the situation on the ground? Very bad, Captain. The Krenth have breached our defenses. They're in the colony. We're evacuating civilians to central shelters, but we can't hold much longer. Stone nodded. Understood. Hold on for another hour. We're coming. The channel closed. Nala looked at Kess, and for the first time in days, she felt hope. Real hope. The humans were here. The Deathworlders had come to save them. In space, the battle continued. The Krenth fleet was being systematically destroyed. Their ships were tough, but human weapons were designed for war. Real war. Not the careful, rule-bound conflicts common in the galaxy. Captain Stone watched as another Krenth cruiser exploded. His ship had barely taken any damage. The Krenth had focused on his military vessels, ignoring the civilian ships. Another mistake. Those civilian ships were carrying hundreds of armed troops. They were carrying supplies, medical equipment, and construction materials. The Krenth thought they were non-combatants. They were wrong. All ships' orbital space is clear. Begin landing operations. Ground forces deploy to coordinates sent to your ships. Protect the civilians. Push the Krenth back. And remember, no mercy for anyone who kills innocents. The human fleet moved into position over the colony. Dropships began launching, carrying soldiers down to the surface. The Valorians on the ground watched in awe as human warriors landed in their streets ready to fight. The Krenth were about to learn a hard lesson. They had attacked the weak, thinking no one would stop them. But someone had come, and that someone was very, very good at fighting. Sergeant Nicole Grant felt the dropship shake as it entered the atmosphere. She checked her rifle for the third time, even though she knew it was ready. Around her, 20 other soldiers did the same. They were all veterans, all volunteers. None of them had been ordered to come here. They had chosen to. The pilot's voice came over the intercom. 30 seconds to landing. Target zone is hot. Krenth forces everywhere. Stay sharp. Nicole looked at her squad. They were good people. Raymond Hughes, the old colonel, sat across from her. He had to be 70 years old, but he looked calm and ready. Next to him was Danny Reed, a young corporal who had served in the border wars, and Lisa Morgan, a private who could throw a grenade with scary accuracy. Listen up, Nicole said. Our job is simple. Protect the civilians. Push the bugs back. Stay together. Watch each other's backs. We're humans. We're from Earth. We don't lose. The soldiers nodded. They understood. On Earth, everything tried to kill you. Diseases, predators, weather, even the plants were dangerous. Humans had survived all of it. They had become the most dangerous predators on their planet. Not because they were the biggest or the strongest, but because they were smart, adaptable, and they never gave up. The dropship landed hard. The ramp dropped, and Nicole was the first one out. The colony was worse than she had imagined. Buildings were damaged or destroyed. Fires burned everywhere. She could hear screaming in the distance. And she could see the Krenth. They were horrible to look at. Black armored bodies, 6 legs, sharp claws. Each one was about the size of a large dog, but they moved fast and attacked in groups. Nicole saw 3 of them tearing into a barricade where Valorian militia were trying to hold them off. Contact front, engage! Her rifle kicked against her shoulder as she fired. The bullets hit the first Krenth, punching through its armor. The creature screeched and fell. The other 2 turned to face this new threat, but Danny and Lisa were already firing. Both bugs went down. Nicole ran to the barricade. The Valorians there looked shocked. They were small, delicate creatures with feathers and large eyes. They looked at the human soldiers with a mixture of fear and hope. Where are the civilians? Nicole asked. One of the Valorians, a female with blue feathers, pointed down the street. The shelters. Central District. We're trying to hold this position to give them time to evacuate. Not anymore. We're holding this position. You get your people out of here. But there are so many Krenth. They keep coming. Nicole smiled. It was not a nice smile. Good, let them come. We've been looking for a fight. The Valorians didn't argue. They retreated toward the shelters, leaving the humans to defend the barricade. Nicole positioned her squad, setting up firing lanes and fallback positions. Colonel Raymond joined her, his old rifle looking well used and deadly. Sergeant, we have movement. Large group coming from the east. Nicole looked through her scope. She counted at least 30 Krenth, all moving toward their position. Everyone ready? Fire on my mark. The Krenth charged. They were fast and fearless. But humans had something the bugs didn't expect. Tactics, discipline, and weapons that had been designed to kill things that wanted to eat you. Fire! The barricade erupted with gunfire. Bullets tore through the Krenth formation. The bugs screeched and tried to scatter, but there was nowhere to hide. The humans kept firing. Controlled bursts that conserved ammunition while maximizing damage. Colonel Raymond threw a grenade into the middle of the Krenth group. The explosion sent bodies flying. Lisa fired at the survivors, her shots precise and deadly. In less than a minute, all 30 Krenth were dead. Nicole reloaded her rifle. That's what I'm talking about. Nice work, everyone. But there was no time to celebrate. More Krenth were coming. Nicole could hear them clicking and screeching in the distance. This was going to be a long fight. In another part of the colony, Commander Linda Price led her group of volunteers through the industrial sector. The Krenth had taken over several buildings here, using them as staging areas for their attacks. Linda's job was to clear them out. John Miller walked beside her, his weapon ready. "Linda, I count at least 50 bugs in that warehouse. How do you want to play this?" Linda studied the building. It was large, with multiple entrances. The Krenth inside probably thought they were safe. "We burned them out." "Lisa, you got those incendiary charges?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good, place them at all the exits. When the bugs run out, we cut them down." It took 10 minutes to set up the charges. Then Linda gave the signal. The explosions were loud and bright. Fire spread through the warehouse quickly. The Krenth inside panicked, rushing toward the exits. They ran right into human weapons. The fight was brutal and short. The Krenth were tough, but they couldn't adapt fast enough. Humans could think, plan, and change tactics on the fly. Every time the bugs tried something, the humans had a counter. Governor Nala watched the battle from the command center. She had access to cameras throughout the colony. What she saw amazed her. The humans were everywhere, pushing the Krenth back street by street. They fought with a combination of discipline and ferocity that she had never seen before. One camera showed a single human soldier holding a doorway against 5 Krenth warriors. He killed 3 before the others retreated. Another camera showed a group of humans rescuing Valorian children from a collapsed building, all while under fire from Krenth snipers. "Governor," Kess said, "the eastern sector is secure. The humans have cleared all Krenth forces from that area. Casualties on their side are minimal." "Minimal? How is that possible?" "They're very good at fighting, ma'am, and they work together like they share one mind. When one unit needs help, others respond immediately. They protect each other." Nala understood. Humans were pack hunters. They had evolved to work as a team, to coordinate their actions, to cover each other's weaknesses. Alone, a human was dangerous. Together, they were unstoppable. "Kess, send a message to all human forces. Tell them the central shelters are under heavy attack. We have 10,000 civilians there, mostly children and elderly. If those shelters fall, we lose everything." "Yes, Governor." The message went out across all channels. Within minutes, human forces began converging on the central district. Sergeant Nicole Grant received the order and immediately moved her squad in that direction. They ran through the streets, dodging rubble and fire, heading toward the sound of heavy fighting. When they arrived, Nicole saw why the message had been so urgent. The Krenth had brought everything they had. Hundreds of warriors were swarming the shelters. The Valorian defenders were falling back, unable to hold the line. "All units, this is Sergeant Grant. We have a situation here. Need all available support at Central District now." Responses came back immediately. Commander Price was coming with 50 soldiers. Captain Stone was redirecting more dropships. Even the civilian volunteers were grabbing weapons and running toward the fight. Nicole didn't wait. She couldn't. Those shelters held children, families, innocent people who just wanted to live in peace, and the Krenth wanted to kill them all. "Squad on me! We're going in!" They charged into the battle, 20 humans against hundreds of Krenth. It should have been suicide. But Nicole's squad had trained for this. They moved as one unit, covering each other, never stopping. They carved a path through the Krenth forces like a knife through paper. Colonel Raymond fought beside soldiers young enough to be his grandchildren. He moved slower than them, but he was more accurate. Every shot he took killed a Krenth. He had been fighting for 50 years, and he knew exactly where to aim to take down an enemy fast. Danny Reed fought with controlled fury. He had lost friends in the border wars. He knew what it felt like to watch people die. He wasn't going to let that happen here. Not to these Valorians. Not to their children. Lisa Morgan ran out of rifle ammunition and switched to her sidearm. When that ran dry, she picked up a piece of metal pipe and used it as a club. She was screaming something about Earth and family and never giving up. The Krenth learned to avoid her. More human soldiers arrived. They formed a defensive line around the shelters, creating a wall of guns and determination. The Krenth kept attacking, wave after wave. But the humans didn't break. They didn't retreat. They stood their ground and fought. Inside the shelters, Valorian children pressed against the walls, listening to the sounds of battle outside. Their parents held them close, whispering that everything would be okay. They didn't know if that was true, but then they heard a human voice over the speakers. "This is Sergeant Nicole Grant of Earth Defense Forces. You are safe now. We have secured the perimeter. No Krenth will reach you. You have my word." The Valorians looked at each other. Could they believe it? Could these humans really protect them? Outside, Nicole reloaded her rifle and looked at her squad. They were tired, wounded, running low on ammunition. But they were still standing, still fighting, still protecting. "How are we doing, Colonel?" Raymond checked his weapon. "We're holding. But they keep coming. Must be 1,000 of them out there. Then we kill 1,000 of them. Simple as that." Raymond laughed. It was a tired sound, but genuine. "I like the way you think, Sergeant." The battle continued through the night. The humans fought without rest, without complaint. They were doing what they had evolved to do. Protecting the tribe, defending the weak, standing. Dawn broke over Theta Prime. The sky turned from black to purple to orange. Governor Nala stood on the roof of the command center watching the sunrise. She had not slept in 3 days. Neither had most of her people. But they were alive. Against all odds, they had survived. Kess climbed up to join her. He looked exhausted but happy. "Governor, the final reports are in. The Krenth have been pushed back to the outskirts of the colony. Most of them are retreating into the wilderness. The humans are still hunting them down. Casualties? Among our people, 3,000 dead, 5,000 wounded. It could have been so much worse." Nala felt tears in her eyes. 3,000 dead. That was 3,000 families destroyed, 3,000 lives cut short. But 50,000 had been saved. Without the humans, everyone would have died. "What about human casualties?" Kess looked at his data pad. 42 dead, 117 wounded. "Governor, they lost only 42 soldiers. They fought thousands of Krenth and lost only 42 people." Nala couldn't believe it. The humans had arrived with 72 ships and maybe 2,000 soldiers. They had faced a Krenth force at least 5 times larger, and they had won with minimal losses. How was that possible? She thought about what she had seen during the battle. The humans fought with a combination of technology and tactics that was devastating. But more than that, they fought with purpose. They weren't defending their own homes or their own people. They were defending strangers. And they did it like their lives depended on it. "Kess, I need to speak with Captain Stone, arrange a meeting." "Yes, Governor." An hour later, Nala met Captain Stone in the colony's main plaza. The area had been a beautiful park before the attack. Now it was scarred by battle, with burn marks and rubble everywhere. But the Valorians were already starting to clean up, and human soldiers were helping them. Captain Stone looked tired. His uniform was dirty, and he had a bandage on his left arm. But he smiled when he saw Nala. "Governor, I'm glad you're safe. Thanks to you, Captain. Thanks to all your people. I don't know how to repay this debt." Stone shook his head. "There's no debt. You called for help, we came. That's all there is to it. But you lost soldiers. 42 of your people died for us. And they died as heroes. They knew the risks. They came anyway." Stone paused, looking at the Valorian civilians around them. "Governor, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why didn't the council help you? You've been part of the council for thousands of years. You helped write their laws. Why did they abandon you?" Nala felt shame wash over her. "The council operates on rules and procedures. Everything must be done properly. The nearest council fleet was 2 weeks away. By the time they got authorization to move, we would have been dead. They chose to follow the rules instead of saving lives." Stone was quiet for a moment. "That's what I thought. The galaxy has become comfortable, peaceful. Everyone follows the rules because nothing bad happens. But then something bad did happen and the rules got in the way. Yes, the council is very good at maintaining peace. But they have forgotten how to fight. How to act quickly when lives are at stake. Well, humans remember. We remember what it's like to fight for survival. And we remember that sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right." Nala looked at this human captain. Earth was classified as a death world. Humans were supposed to be dangerous, aggressive, violent. But Stone had come across the stars to save her people. He had risked his life and the lives of his crew for strangers. "Captain, I have studied humans since you joined the council. I was afraid of you. Many species are. We look at Earth and see a world of horrors. We see predators and diseases and disasters. We see humans who evolved to survive all of that. And we think you must be monsters. But you're not monsters. You're protectors. You fight not because you love violence, but because you love peace. You save the weak not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to do so." Stone smiled. "That's the nicest thing anyone has ever said about humanity, Governor." Sergeant Nicole Grant walked through the eastern sector, checking on her squad. Raymond Hughes was sitting on a piece of rubble, drinking water and talking with some Valorian children. The kids were fascinated by the old colonel, asking him questions about Earth and humans. "Is it true your planet tried to kill you every day?" one child asked. Raymond laughed. "Not every day. Sometimes Earth was nice. We had beautiful forests, amazing oceans, mountains that touched the sky. But yes, it was dangerous. We had predators that could eat you, diseases that could kill you, weather that could freeze you or burn you. How did you survive? We learned. We adapted. We worked together. And we never gave up. No matter how bad things got, humans always found a way." Another child, a small female with yellow feathers, looked up at Raymond with wide eyes. "Are you going to leave now? Now that the fight is over?" Raymond looked at Nicole, who had joined the group. She shrugged. "That's up to the captain. But I think we'll stay for a while. Help you rebuild. Make sure the Krenth don't come back." "Really? You'd stay?" "Of course. That's what friends do. They help each other." The children seemed delighted by this. They started asking more questions, wanting to know everything about humans and Earth. Nicole smiled. These kids had almost died. Their families had almost been wiped out. But they were resilient. They were already thinking about the future. Maybe Valorians weren't as different from humans as everyone thought. Commander Linda Price was organizing supply distribution in the Central District. The Midnight Runner and several other cargo ships had brought food, medicine, and construction materials. The Valorians needed all of it. John Miller approached her with a data pad. "Linda, we have a problem. The shelters are overcrowded. Too many people lost their homes in the attack. We need to set up temporary housing. What do we have?" "The Star Princess, that cruise liner. They're offering to house families on their ship until we can build new homes. They've got room for about 2,000 people." Linda raised her eyebrows. "A luxury cruise liner is going to house refugee families?" "The captain says it's the least they can do. The passengers voted on it. Most of them want to help. Then make it happen. Coordinate with Governor Nala's people. Prioritize families with young children." "Yes, ma'am." Linda watched John leave, then looked around at all the activity. Human soldiers and Valorian civilians were working side by side, clearing rubble, treating wounded, distributing supplies. Two species that had barely known each other a week ago were now working together like old friends. That night, Captain Stone held a meeting with all the ship captains in his fleet. They gathered on the Harbinger, filling the conference room. There were military officers, merchant captains, and even Kate Douglas, the salvage operator who most people called a pirate. "Thank you all for coming," Stone said. "We need to discuss our next steps. The colony is secure, but the Krenth are still out there. They could regroup and attack again." "We should hunt them down," Kate said. "Find their nest and destroy it. That's risky. We don't know how many of them there are. So we find out, send scouts, gather intelligence. Then we hit them hard." Colonel Raymond, who had been invited to the meeting, nodded. "The lady has a point. The Krenth will attack again if we don't deal with them permanently. Better to take the fight to them now while we have the advantage." Stone looked around the room. Anyone disagree? No one spoke. They all understood. This wasn't over, not yet. All right, we hunt. But carefully. I'm not losing more people because we rushed in. We do this smart. The meeting continued for another hour, planning the operation. They would send out scout teams to locate the Krenth nest. Then they would coordinate a strike to destroy it. Risky but necessary. When the meeting ended, Stone stood on the bridge looking at Theta Prime below. The planet looked peaceful from space, but he knew the scars of battle covered its surface. It would take years to fully recover, but they would recover. With human help, the Valorians would rebuild. They would grow stronger, and they would never forget who came to save them. Lieutenant Jake Morrison joined him. "Captain, we're getting messages from Earth. The news about Theta Prime has spread. People are calling us heroes." "Heroes? I don't know about that. We just did what needed to be done." "Sir, with respect, that's what heroes do. They do what needs to be done even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous." Stone smiled. "Maybe you're right, Jake. Maybe we are heroes, all of us. Everyone who answered that distress call. What do you think will happen now? Will the council be angry we interfered? Probably. But I don't care." Governor Nala sent a full report to the council. She told them everything. How they abandoned her people. How humans saved them. That's going to cause some uncomfortable questions. Good. Maybe they'll realize they need to change. Maybe, or Maybe they'll just be more careful about ignoring distress calls in the future. Jake was quiet for a moment. Sir, do you think we'll be doing this again? Responding to distress calls, I mean. Stone looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, other colonies existed. Other species. Other people who might need help someday. And he knew deep in his heart that humans would answer. Because that's what they did. Yeah, Jake, I think we will. Someone calls for help and we'll be there. That's who we are now. 3 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Hall on the Council homeworld. The chamber was massive, with seats arranged in a circle so everyone could see everyone else. At the center stood Executor Thalen, the Valorian representative. He looked different than he had before the attack. His feathers were bright, his crest held high. He stood with confidence now, not fear. Honored members of the Council, Thalen began. I come before you today to speak about the events at Theta Prime. 50,000 of my people were under attack by the Krenth swarm. We called for help. The Council told us help would arrive in 2 weeks, but my people would have been dead in 2 days. The chamber was silent. Everyone knew what had happened. The news had spread across the entire galaxy. The Council failed us, Thalen continued. You followed your rules and procedures. You did everything properly. But properly doesn't save lives. Action saves lives. And the only species that took action was humanity. A representative from the Korthan species, a large reptilian being, spoke up. The humans had no authority to intervene. That sector is under Council jurisdiction. They should have waited for official authorization. Thalen turned to face the Korthan. Waited while my people died. While children were slaughtered. The humans did what you should have done. They came to help. Admiral Helen Carter sat in the human section of the chamber. She had been invited to attend as a witness. Beside her sat Captain Stone and Governor Nala. They watched as the Council debated what had happened. Some representatives were grateful. They praised humanity's actions. But others were angry. They saw the human intervention as breaking protocol, as showing disrespect for Council authority. Finally, the Council chairman, an ancient being named Vorath, spoke. His voice was deep and carried weight. The humans acted without permission. This is true, but they saved 50,000 lives. This is also true. We must decide what this means for the Council going forward. Chairman, Admiral Carter said, standing up. May I speak? Vorath nodded. The human representative may speak. Carter walked to the center of the chamber. She felt all those eyes on her. Representatives from species that had existed for thousands of years. Humanity was new to the galaxy, barely 3 decades old in Council terms. But she stood tall and proud. Members of the Council, I want to tell you a story. On Earth we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. That's what happened at Theta Prime. The Krenth were evil. They attacked innocent people, and the Council did nothing. We followed proper procedure, the Korthan representative protested. Proper procedure would have let 50,000 people die. Is that the Council you want to be? One that values rules over lives? Vorath leaned forward. What do you suggest, Admiral? I suggest the Council remembers why it was created. You built this organization to protect the weak, to maintain peace, to ensure justice. But you've become so focused on rules that you've forgotten the people those rules are supposed to protect. And what would humans do differently? Carter thought about the 72 ships that had converged on Theta Prime, about the veterans who had volunteered, about the merchant captains who had changed course to help strangers, about the 42 soldiers who had died protecting people they had never met. Humans would act. When someone calls for help, we don't check the rules first. We don't wait for authorization. We go, we help. We do what's right, not what's proper. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives agreed. Others argued. It went on for hours. Finally, Vorath called for silence. The Council will take this matter under advisement. We will review our emergency response protocols. We will consider changes to how we handle distress calls. He paused, looking at Carter. And we will formally thank humanity for their service at Theta Prime. You saved lives when we did not. That deserves recognition. Carter nodded. It wasn't everything she wanted, but it was a start. The Council was slow to change, but at least they were thinking about it. After the session ended, Governor Nala approached Carter. Admiral, thank you for speaking up. Many species are too afraid to challenge the Council. Someone had to say it. The Council is a good organization, but it needs to remember what it's fighting for. I have sent a full report to my government. The Valorian Federation wants to establish closer ties with humanity. We would like to open formal diplomatic channels, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. Carter smiled. We'd like that too, Governor. And Admiral, my people will never forget what yours did for us. You are always welcome in Valorian space, always. Back on Earth, the story of Theta Prime had become famous. Every news channel covered it. Children played games where they pretended to be soldiers saving alien colonies. Artists created paintings of human ships arriving to save the Valorians. Musicians wrote songs about the battle, but for the people who had actually been there, it was different. They didn't feel like heroes. They had just done their job. They had helped people who needed help. Sergeant Nicole Grant returned to her apartment on Mars Station. It felt strange to be home after everything that had happened. She turned on her computer and found dozens of messages waiting. Job offers, interview requests, marriage proposals from people she had never met. She deleted most of them. But one message caught her attention. It was from Governor Nala. Sergeant Grant, I wanted to thank you personally for what you did at the Central Shelters. My granddaughter was there. She is alive because of you and your squad. I can never repay that debt, but I want you to know that you have a friend in the Valorian Federation. If you ever need anything at all, you only need to ask. Nicole read the message 3 times. She had saved someone's granddaughter. She hadn't known that during the battle. She had just seen children who needed protection. But now, knowing that one specific child had survived because of her actions, it felt real in a way it hadn't before. She typed a response. Governor, I was just doing my job. But I'm glad your granddaughter is safe. Tell her that humans will always protect her. That's a promise. Commander Linda Price was back on the Midnight Runner hauling cargo again. But now everywhere she went, people wanted to talk to her. Other ship captains asked about the battle. Merchants wanted to hear her stories. Even the pirates respected her now. John Miller had stayed with her crew. He decided he liked working on a cargo ship more than being a security guard. Plus, Linda paid better. Linda, he said one day while they were in transit, do you think we'll do something like that again? Help someone in trouble, probably. Seems like that's what humans do now. I'm okay with that. Felt good, you know, saving those people. Yeah, it did. Captain Stone received a promotion. He was now Admiral Stone in charge of Earth's rapid response fleet. His job was to coordinate quick interventions when emergencies arose. The fleet had 20 dedicated ships, but they could call on hundreds more if needed. Civilian vessels that wanted to be part of the response network. Lieutenant Jake Morrison became his executive officer. They worked together to develop new tactics, new strategies for protecting colonies and responding to threats. They trained other crews, shared what they had learned at Theta Prime. The Council had been changed by what happened. They didn't admit it publicly, but their actions spoke louder than words. Response times improved. Authorization procedures were streamlined. Emergency protocols were updated. The rules became more flexible, more focused on saving lives than following procedure, and humanity's reputation in the galaxy changed. Before, they had been seen as dangerous outsiders. Now they were seen as protectors. Colonies on the frontier requested human advisors. Trade convoys asked for human escorts. Even species that had been afraid of humans now wanted them around. But not everyone was happy about this. The Krenth swarm had been humiliated at Theta Prime. They had lost hundreds of warriors and an entire fleet. They wanted revenge. In the dark spaces between stars, the Krenth gathered. They bred new warriors. They built new ships. And they planned their next attack. But this time they would be ready for humans. This time they would not underestimate the Deathworlders. Admiral Carter received intelligence reports about Krenth activity. They were building up their forces, preparing for something big. She called a meeting with her top officers. The Krenth are planning something. We need to be ready. Stone nodded. We broke their fleet at Theta Prime. They're not going to forget that. No, they're not. We need to expand our response capabilities. More ships, more soldiers, better coordination with the Council. What about the other species? Will they help? Some will. The Valorians have already pledged ships to a joint defense force. Others are considering it. But we can't count on everyone. Stone smiled grimly. Then we do what we always do. We handle it ourselves. Humans are good at that. The meeting continued, planning for future threats. But Carter felt confident. Humanity had proven itself. They had shown the galaxy what they were capable of, and if the Krenth came again, humans would be ready. On Theta Prime, life slowly returned to normal. The destroyed buildings were rebuilt. The wounded healed. The dead were mourned, but the colony survived. Governor Nala established a memorial in the central plaza,